Welcome to Winter Gardens TV. On this month's episode, we talk all things Winter Gardens history with Stephen Mercer. Plus, Maureen Nolan joins us in the director's chair. Pigeons take over the Winter Gardens as the annual Pigeon Fanciers Weekend returns. And finally, an insight into Blackpool's Magic Convention. You join us now in the foyer. Now, of course, I'm joined by Stephen Mercer. Stephen, you are an expert in all things Winter Gardens. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Just talk to us a bit about these boards behind us, because people, as they walk in, they'll see these boards all the time, but what are they and what are they about and what are they for?
It's one of the most important pieces of history that's on show for anybody that comes in through the entranceway, the Church Street entrance anyway. They do have to pass this, which is the Rule of Honour. It was set up really to honour those performers that have been on the stage, have somehow performed within the Winter Gardens. You've got an amazing list of who's who, all the way from 1889 right up to date. And some of the names that are on here are just outstanding, not just for the stage, but also for the screen. So we have stars at the stage, we have movie stars as well. I mean, just looking, the very first name is an actor-playwright, Wilson Barrett. But then you can move on through the years and you can spot just big names that people will recognize, from Lily Langtry in 1901 all the way through to Gracie Fields in 1931. The names are just amazing. We can go throughout all these years pointing out so many. Many will know them. Some, maybe younger folks, won't. Not until we get to the later years, but it is an important part of our history.
So, of course, this was set up at the start of the Opera House, when the Opera House first opened.
This Opera House now is the third incarnation. The first Opera House, it was designed by Frank Matcham. It opened in 1889. But then in 1910, they closed that theatre and they did some renovation work. It opened a year later. But then in 1938, it became apparent that it wasn't big enough. People were being turned away, wanted to come and see many of the shows. So they decided to do something that, I guess, nowadays, it would never happen. They demolished a Frank Matcham designed theatre. Of course, back in those days, it was just a theatre that happened to be designed by Frank Matcham, not as revered as it is today. So they opened the current Art Deco style theatre in 1939. They created this board so that they could show the stars from all of those theatres, all the way through from 1889 right up to date.
So, of course, we were talking about names earlier. There is a name on there that it doesn't appear. It's an iconic name. It's been to Blackpool. It's been here.
I think I know who you mean.
Frank
We're
Sinatra.
talking about Frank Sinatra.
Of course.
One of the most well-known names throughout the whole of the world. Yes, he did perform here. Why isn't he on the Roll of Honour? Originally, this was set up for performers who were from the UK and Ireland. If you weren't from here, you didn't go on to the Roll of Honour. It has changed over the years because although it was for individuals, it then changed because we had many more ensemble type shows, such as 42nd Street back in 1991, Starlight Express in 2012, Cats in 2003. And rather than having a huge name, it was a full cast of stars. So they had to make some changes, but yes, it is something that people notice. Why isn't Old Blue Eyes on the Roll of Honour? And that is the reason, plain and simple.
So these shows now, these big West End shows that are coming to the Winter Gardens, over the last few years, like you said, from 1991, 42nd Street, the likes of A Christmas Carol, Mamma Mia, all these big names, they come here and they are the sort of the stars of modern day in a way.
They are. They're the stars of Blackpool. And that's what Blackpool is famous for, entertaining. And the Winter Gardens is an integral part of that history of entertaining. So whether it was an individual or whether it was a show, that can now be included on the Roll of Honour.
And moving on to modern times,
yes,
the modern board that we can see just over in front of us. Some iconic names on there, but also, again, the Royal Variety performance appearing. Something that is so prestigious and that Blackpool has hosted a couple of times now.
Well, we were the first theatre outside of London to host the Royal Variety back in 1955. Then it came back again in 2009, and then it came back a third time. The only theatre outside of London to have hosted it more than twice is the Opera House. And the last time it was 2020. A very different type of Royal Variety performance. It was during COVID times. So although we didn't have an audience, it was still broadcast to the nation through television.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Stephen. We
You're
really
very welcome.
appreciate it. And it's great to learn about the history of this board. And hopefully we can get more names on there in the future.
There will be more to appear, I am sure. Thank you.
A huge thank you to Stephen Mercer there. Now moving on to the Director's Chair, where Maureen Nolan joined us to talk all things Calendar Girls and her time in Blackpool.
Oh, Calendar Girls last month was fantastic here. I mean, it's always great to perform in your hometown, but in this iconic theatre, it's just really special. So it was brilliant. I had legions of family here. And everybody had a brilliant time. It's always nice to show off to the rest of the cast. You know, yes, this is our theatre, you know. And it's a beautiful building, isn't it? So I'm very proud. There's so many memories here at the Winter Gardens. Just summer seasons, we did 4 or 5, I think, here. It was Cannonball and various Cannonball, a lot actually. Mike Yarwood, names from the past. We've been to Christmas markets here. We come to see other shows here. You know, we come see the premiere of Mamma Mia here. They get all the best shows, don't they, here? So, and we've had some great night outs here, some drunken Irish night outs. Yeah. Brilliant, really. I mean, for any child growing up in Blackpool, it is perfect, isn't it? The amusements and the beach and everything, the pleasure beach. Yeah, people in Blackpool, I came over from Dublin when I was about 8, and people in Blackpool really took us to their hearts. We did all the working men's clubs first around this area. And then when we moved to London eventually, when we got a big break sort of thing, we all ended up moving back to Blackpool. I think it's one of those towns that people just can't leave, you know, on a permanent basis. So, yeah, it's such a friendly town. We didn't have any training, actually. Our parents were professional singers. My dad was a crooner, my mum was a soprano. So we kind of fell into it, really. We joined their act. I joined their act when I was about 9, so I've been singing since then. And we did, as I said, all the working men's clubs. Then we got our break just for the 6 girls. So no, we've had no training. Well, I'm hoping what's next is more musical theatre, maybe. That's my favourite thing to do at the moment. But the good and the bad thing about show business is you never know. So it's feast or famine. You're sitting around thinking, oh, somebody give me a job, and then 5 jobs come in all at the same time. So I'm hoping more musical theatre. I'd love to do some TV, soap work or something. That would be lovely. Maybe another panto, my 40th probably, you know, this year. I'm expecting my 5th granddaughter, so that's going to be massive in my life. My son has had 5 daughters. It's ridiculous. So I have 5 granddaughters and 5 sisters. Very female orientated. So, but you know, you never know, and I'm hoping for nice things again this year.
A huge thank you to Maureen Nolan there. Now, the Pigeon Fanciers weekend is taking place behind me. We took a look around to see what was going on. To join us in the Empress Ballroom for Pigeon Fanciers weekend, I'm joined by David Trippett, of course, organiser of the event. David, firstly, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good, good. Well, I just wanted to sort of talk about the event. I mean, this event's been going on for many years. Just talk to us a bit about how this event started.
We actually started 53 years ago in Doncaster. We used to take over the race course there. In 1977, we attracted an international event to be held in the UK. And because the race course wasn't quite big enough, we tried to find somewhere which was bigger, and we ended up here in Blackpool at the Winter Gardens in this magnificent building that we have here now. Since then, we've been here for 40 odd years now. We are perhaps, I think, the biggest pigeon show in the UK and probably one of the biggest in Europe as well.
So we've made our way up to the Spanish Horn now. I'm joined by Helen. Helen, can you just explain to us what we're seeing in here?
Okay, so this is the judging of fancy pigeons. So we probably have about 90 different breeds of fancy pigeons here today, and we're just working our way through the judging process.
So what are fancier pigeons then? What is the sort of difference between fancy pigeons and
the racing pigeons?
Yes.
Okay, so they've all got different breed traits. So some will be ornamental, so they'll have a really strong structure. Some will be based on form, so body type. Some will be based on blowing ability, so we have blowers on show, and also different coloured pigeons. So there's 10 sections in total on display, so 10 different types of fancy pigeons.
You are currently judging one of the pigeons. What are you looking for at the minute?
Well, this is a Jacobin, and you've got to have the overall stance, like legs in line, and you've got to have a nice round mane. This one's a bit loose in the back, but it's a nice bird. And you see, it's not as round as that one there. So you've got your white head, you've got to have a good rosette there. And it's the overall impression of it.
Now, moving on from the pigeon fancier, as a little bit of magic comes to the Winter Gardens.
The Blackpool Magic Convention 2024 returns to the Winter Gardens from Friday the 16th to Sunday the 18th of February. And I'm pleased to say, joining me now on the line is Russ Stevens. Russ, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Very, very good. Very busy. We're leading into the convention time now, so it's it's kind of crazy because we've got so many acts coming from all over the world, and the logistics of all of that are absolutely kind of bad. But yeah, all good. It's all looking good.
And speaking of the convention, when did the convention begin, and what was sort of the reason for setting up this convention?
So it was very strange, really. It's just over 70 years old now, the Blackpool Magic Convention. And in Blackpool, there's a magic club, which is one of the oldest in the country, the Blackpool Magicians Club, which was just a small group of local magicians that set up this club. And after a while, decided to put on their own convention, which was a rare thing at the time, all those years ago. And for some reason, it's just expanded and expanded and grown to the point now where it's the largest magic convention in the world, like anywhere in the world. The other two, the other main one is in Las Vegas, and we are probably 4 times the size of that. So it's a very strange thing that Blackpool has this event, but it in the magic world, it is the biggest of its kind.
And with that, I'm imagining that there have been several famous faces that have been through the doors of the convention over the years.
Yeah, over the years, from early days, your Paul Danielses and people like that. We've had David Blaine, Dynamo, Darren Brown. I mean, pretty much every big magician has at some time or another visited the Blackpool Magic Convention and probably performed there as well.
And when you think of the Magic Convention, it's got that air of mystery and that, I guess the Magic Circle as well comes into it. What is it? What is the Magic Circle?
Okay, so the Magic Circle that's probably the world's biggest magic club, which is based in London. So that is similar to the Blackpool Magic Club. They don't have their own sort of annual convention, but they have I think it's about 1,500 members around the world, and they have a purpose-built club, which the Blackpool Club do as well, which they're the only two sort of magic organizations with their own permanent buildings that they own and run on behalf of their members.
And how do you get into the Magic Circle?
The Magic Circle, you have to pass an exam. So you have to perform in front of a panel of 5 or 6 other magicians who are all experts in their own fields, and be good enough, really. But magic has many different forms. So it isn't just performing. Maybe your speciality is a history of magic, or maybe another. My main job is I work across all of the magic on Britain's Got Talent. So there's another kind of magician who would be consulting, so creating magic. So that's something that I now do. But there's all these other disciplines of magic. So it isn't just sort of standing there and performing. It's just showing that you have a certain level of standard to be able to join the Magic Circle. And then when you do join, they have three degrees. So you've got a member of the Magic Circle, which is the normal one, and then the step up from that is called AIMC, which is an associate of the Inner Magic Circle. And then they have a MIMC, which is member of the Inner Magic Circle, which is pretty much, I think it's limited to something like 200 people at any time around the world. And then I was lucky enough to be given, a couple of years ago, they have a honorary members, and there's only probably 16 of us, and they're all performers, but they're all sort of these huge names. I don't know why I'm there, but they did David Copperfield, Chris Angel, David Blaine, Dynamo, all of those big names are these sort of honorary members. So there's all these sort of structures to it. Sounds very secret, doesn't it? But it isn't. Kind of once you're in, it's just this group of people that love magic that sit and share stories and tricks and ideas.
That's incredible. And moving on to, of course, this year's convention. What acts are going to be there at this year's convention, and what can we expect to see?
Yeah, so the acts are all different genres of magic. We have so it runs over 3 days, 16th, 17th, 18th of February. We have the main show in the Opera House, which we have 2 performances each night of the same show. 3 different shows, but 2 houses a night. And those shows are huge. So they feature sort of the big stage magicians from around the world. Maybe some names that the public won't know, but within the magic world, they're sort of the really big names. And then we also have a fringe, kind of like our version of the Edinburgh Fringe. So we also have satellite shows. So now the Winter Gardens has expanded their operation, and we have the Circle Hall in that new area that they've built. We now have another 2 rooms putting shows on in tandem with the big show in the Opera House. So basically, our customers can come in and see the show in the Opera House, the first show, come out of that, and then they've got a choice of 3 other shows that they could choose to see, one of those 3 in any of the other venues, like the Arena, the Circle Hall, and now the Foyer Hall as well. So it's crazy that you can't see everything at the convention. There's so much on that it's an impossibility to see. And then during the daytime, we have 3 lecture spaces as well. So that's magicians from all around the world talking about different kinds of magic and teaching the registrants different kinds of magic. And the biggest part of the convention, which is the biggest draw for, I think, our customers, is the dealers hall. So the whole of the Empress and the pavilion and that whole horseshoe area, we have 175 dealers from around the world, magic dealers, all selling different kinds of magic.
That sounds such a busy weekend. And just finally, can you tell us how we can get tickets to that then?
Yeah, they can. You can go on blackpoolmagicconvention.com, our website. You can. It's not just open just to magicians, but you obviously have to have an interest. But anyone can come. You can buy a 3-day pass. You can buy a 1-day pass. You can also buy tickets just to see the shows in the Opera House on the Friday, Saturday, or Sunday night. One thing I didn't mention, on the Saturday night, we have a one-man show, a magician called Mac King, who's a huge name in Las Vegas. He has his own one-man show in Vegas, and he's coming over for the first time. He's performing his entire show outside of America, and he's doing the Saturday night show in the Opera House, the big show in the Opera House on his own, which is a rare thing that we have just one magician. They've got to be really good to be able to hold that audience and be on their own like that in front of, I don't know, 3,500, 4,000 people.
Well, it all sounds very exciting. Blackpool Magic Convention 2024 returns to the Winter Gardens from Friday the 16th to Sunday the 18th of February. A huge thank you for joining me, Russ.
Thank you very much.
We have plenty of exciting things happening at the Winter Gardens this month.
If you enjoyed our look into the history of the Winter Gardens, then why not join us for a venue tour from February 21st running throughout the year.
Or maybe you want to see Karim as King Julian and his gang run riot in Madagascar from the 22nd to the 24th.
Dance Live 2024 takes place in the Opera House on the 27th.
And there's an afternoon tea dance taking place on March 1st in the Spanish Hall.
And Dance Work Take to the Stage 2024 is in the Opera House on the 1st and 2nd of March.
Head over to our website wintergardensblackpool.co.uk to see what's available.
And that's all from us on this month's episode of Winter Gardens TV. Make sure to join us next month for more of the latest going on.